Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and in today's video I want to ask the question of, is removal of artifact weapons a prune or an unprune to the game? It is no surprise that in Legion we'll be losing our artifact weapons. A lot of us knew that the legendary system, AP weapon system, and some of the other systems of Legion are simply not going to make it into the next expansion. One of the things that we're going to have with the story is the loss of our artifact weapons. I don't want to spoil how we lose them, but we're not going to be using them anytime soon after Battle for Azeroth. This implies a lot of good things. For example, we'll actually be able to choose what weapons we want to have. So no longer will we see every single Retribution Paladin running around with the Ashbringer, or every single Shaman running around with the Doomhammer, which really devalues the core of what these weapons are all about, the rarity, the uniqueness. It's nice that we have a lot of different skins that we can apply for weapons, like this is the skin for the Kingslayers, but still, every Assassination Rogue will have daggers. I'm pretty sure Assassination Rogue will still have daggers in the future, but it'll be interesting to see a Subtlety Rogue with a dagger in one hand and a sword in the other, like a dagger main hand kind of build. I think stuff like this would be a lot of fun to see in the future. In Legion, though, a lot of people would say the game is pretty pruned. A lot of it is passives. If we take a look at one of the biggest forms of passives that we get is our artifact weapons. Artifact weapons bring one active ability, and that's for the most part that's it for all the weapons. And there's a plethora of passives that change our gameplay, but not all of them change it in major ways. Some are very much like the talents of old ages, kind of like Vanilla, BC, Wrath, Kata, anything pre-mop. Stuff like increases critical chance of your rupture by 13%. Is it really game-changing? Not really. Or Toxic Blades, increases damage dealt by Envenom by 13%. Game-changing or not really? Balanced Blades, increases critical strike chance of Mutilate by 8%. Again, nothing that changes your gameplay currently, is just a flat passive that you just play with. Master Alchemist increases damage. Again, I'm also showcasing you some of the passives, not all of them. And what I want to show you guys is the fact that I don't think we're exactly unpruning the game by taking out artifact weapons. Sure, most of the artifact weapons come with one active ability, and for the most part, the baseline of a specialization is pruned. For example, Assassination. The only real common point generator we have besides Garrote, which I'd more treated like a dot rather than a common point generator, is Mutilate. We used to have Dispatch. Right now all we do is build Mutilate until we have full common points, throw down Rupture, then build Mutilate and throw down Venom and maintain Garrote. At one point, Assassination used to maintain or at least get Slice and Dice up early, and you could even get a passive with a tree where on an Envenom you would get a refresher of your Slice and Dice if it was a 5 common point in Venom. So it was a deal of, hey, let's get the Slice and Dice up as early as possible and then maintain it for as long as possible. But there was a little bit of ramp up, there was a little bit of interesting parts about it. And then when it came to Dispatch during Execute phase, you're doing more damage for a little bit less energy, but not generate as many common points, so you have to still be very, very efficient with your finishers and how you use them properly. Stuff like this was very, very interesting with rogues as well as Assassination Rogues. So we had things like Exposed Armor that we had to stack, Slice and Dice that I just talked about. There's a few abilities that definitely elude me right now, and I can go on talking about combat rogues, of how combat was different to Outlaw and the different passives and little things that you had to do back in the day. With the artifact weapons we have currently, I think that we might not exactly be unpruning things if we remove them. Once we remove them, some of them do make into talents. For example, Fire Mage artifact weapon is so crucial to your playstyle, it is going to become a talent. Same thing for Retribution Paladins and a handful of other classes. Now, they are going to become talents. That means they need to be competitive with other abilities, so you won't just receive them to your core. You will have to choose between that artifact weapon you used to have, as well as other talents to see which one is more competitive and which one suits your playstyle, and which one is best in slot for different situations. Let's start with Assassination artifact weapon, and one of the things it brings. The first trait I want to talk about is Surge Toxins. Finisher moves increase the poison damage dealt to the target by 10% for 5 seconds. A lot of your abilities is nature damage. Your artifact weapon is a lot of nature damage. Toxic Blade is also a lot of nature damage. Envenom is a lot of nature damage. Your poison applications from Deadly Poison is a lot of nature damage. So in the way you play Assassination, and just a really quick, very baseline stuff, you maintain your dots like Garrote. You build common points with Mutilate, enough common points for a Rupture, and then every time you spend points into a finisher, you maintain Surge of Toxins for as long as you can. And what you're trying to do as you play rotation is maximize this ability. So you're trying to kind of line up your energy pooling, your combo points, and the dots that you have to maximize the use of Surge of Toxins. If you can maintain that as best as possible with the energy you're given, abilities like Vendetta that give you a ton of energy off the bat for the use, your artifact weapon that you might be able to combo together, maybe Toxic Blade to combine, you can stack a lot of damage and abilities to increase your overall damage while also maintaining your dots. So in a way, while Assassination Unit have a lot of abilities to press, there's still a lot to do during your rotation, a lot of little tidbits and nitty-gritty things that some people might not even see as they play rotation. And again, I'm talking about some people. That means people that simply just don't have any experience with Assassination. It isn't that difficult to maintain it, but it's one of those things that we will be losing. In some ways, Assassination can even build just for 3 combo points and use an Venom just to maintain the burst of Surge of Toxins if you want to maximize your damage, especially if you have certain abilities. Right now, I'm kind of losing combo points. I don't have enough abilities. Now I'm losing out on the buff. Now I'm kind of losing on my damage. Stuff like this. We have abilities like Bag of Tricks. This is an awesome AoE. Venom and Rupture have a 2.5% per combo point spent on a target, smash a vial of poison on the ground, dealing 1.6 million nature damage over 3 seconds to all enemies. This is an amazing AoE ability, and it combos together within burst for single target or AoE. Abilities like this are going to become one of the talents to be competitive with other talents, hopefully competitive. Abilities like Surge Toxins that give you even a little bit complexity to your rotation are just gone. So are we really pruning? Because in a way you have to choose between Bag of Tricks or something like Venom Rush now. Is this really a prune or an unprune? Which I'm not quite sure about. Another talent that we could talk about, Dense Concoction. This is an awesome for PvP in particular. Crimson Vial reduces the damage you take by 4%. What I'm talking about are even some artifact point talents or traits that are passive that change active abilities. So normally you would use Crimson Vial in a way to heal yourself. You're kind of low on health, you can heal. But in PvP situation, you can use it early to stack up a damage buff, combo it together with a feint. Now you have a 24% damage reduction here and a 30% here for PvP. Stuff like this that changes some of the abilities you already have in a different and interesting ways, as well as other small passives to add some even small time complexity into rotation is going to be gone. Hunter. Now in Hunter, there's not a lot of artifact traits where you can actually play around with stuff like Assassination. But as I was taking a look at, and this is going to be one of the easy ones to really ease you guys in on the idea, I'm not experienced in any of these other classes besides Rogue. So first of all, if I missed something, I apologize ahead of time. Fleet of Wind. Aspect of Cheater grants you 50% dodge chance and makes you immune to snares. This is something you can use in PvP against melee. Stuff like this changes your ability slightly to where you can actually use it as a defensive if there's not big enough area of mobility where you have to use aspect of the cheetah. Like in arenas, you don't really have a lot of places to run to and no real big reason to use it. So you can use it defensively against a lot of the melee to hopefully dodge some of the abilities and reduce your chance of damage taken. Stuff like this again. Just easy to ease you in. Let's take a look at some of the other classes that I have. Unholy Death Knight, and this one will make it a little more sense than the Hunter. This is probably going to end up being a talent, I feel like, in the future, because it's kind of neat. Scourge of Worlds. Death Coil has a chance to increase Scourge Strike damage against the target by 30% for 6 seconds. As someone who might be an experienced player, not me, but someone who is an experienced player on a Death Knight, those guys might be able to use all of the Festering Strikes, the Festering Wounds, and all of your Death Runes in terms of the resources, the runes and the runic power, in order to line themselves up an opportunity to get a lot of Death Coils back to back to back, as well as a lot of runes to spam out Scourge Strike back to back to back. Which is a good thing. I like combinations where a player, because they're good at what they do, can increase their damage by themselves because of a proc or maybe because of a combination of abilities or a passive. Again, kind of like an Assassination Rogue deal here, except with a little bit of RNGs, but also a little bit of predictability due to resources. Stuff like this, I would be kind of sad to see Scourge of Worlds gone and Unholy Death Knights not being able to dish out the damage the way they would. Boomkin. Those guys are really, for the most part, are just passives all day. Lots of passives that don't actually change the gameplay, but this one I thought was interesting. Rapid Intervention. Innervate now grants your target 10% haste for its duration. It's only 10-second duration for 3-minute cooldown. But there's so many ways of using it. Of course, obviously, a Boomkin would use it on a healer so that a healer can get a bit of haste and have free mana usage to just spam out a bunch of heals on a raid group or in a dungeon. You can use this on like an Arcane Mage to make so an Arcane Mage drains no mana, can do a lot of damage, has more haste, especially during Time Warp, to just spam out a ton of damage, or even in PvP. to give a class that can utilize that 10% extra haste to just spam out a bunch of damage into an enemy. Also, I forgot the feral one. The feral one here is Bloodletter's Frailty. Very straightforward. During your Ashman's Frenzy, which is your artifact weapon ability, the bleed for ferals, you deal 30% more damage to the enemy target. So the fact that your artifact weapon bleed can be comboed together for extra damage on the enemy, it's kind of like a vendetta. So it's another one of those things that I hope will be maybe a talent in the future, but I kind of highly doubt it because it's just a passive. Unless they bring in the artifact weapon effect or add it as a baseline ability, it's just kind of sad to see it gone. And the last one we have is for Holy Priest. Again, for Holy Priest for the most part have a lot of good passes, but there's one ability in particular that makes it super strong. And again, player skill here is going to be a determinant of how strong you are as a player. Renew the Faith. While Divine Hymn, which is basically your Tranquility or your version of Tranquility for Holy Priest, is active, Prayer of Mending, which is an ability that jumps around from player to player and gives them heal. Prayer of Mending jumps around to a new target every 0.8 seconds without consuming a charge. So if you're not aware how Holy Priests play, Prayer of Mending you put on a friendly target, I guess I can put it on myself, and it gives me 5 charges. So if I'm in a party and I take damage, it'll heal me and then jump to a next player. If that player takes damage, it'll heal them and jump to the next player. You can stack it up to a 10 stack if you want to, or you can have a 5 stack on you, 5 stack on healer, 5 stack on DPS, 5 stack on someone else. And if you get all these 5 stacks happening or on all over the place and they're bouncing around all over the party, healing everybody by little, once you cast Divine Hymn, it'll just force the ability to bounce around all over the place between you. And as many of those you have as possible, not 10 stacked, but as many of individual prayer mendings you have in a group or in a raid, you can actually maximize and do insane AoE healing with this. Stuff like this, I feel like artifact weapons bring. Stuff like this are passives that affect the way we play and affect our already inherent abilities. Stuff like this I really wouldn't want to see gone. So I'm really hoping in Battle for Azeroth we get a lot of passives. I don't think there's a way that they can make Battle for Azeroth and have it still pruned. It cannot be pruned. I think the game is more fun when there's a lot more abilities and then players read those abilities, and whoever uses those abilities to the most fullest extent, I think becomes a better player. I am very happy to see when players are doing well because they're skillful, not because they're playing a certain class, and I think a lot of people would agree with me there. Stuff like this from artifact weapons we're going to be losing, so in a way it's a prune, but I'm kind of hoping we're going to get an unprune in some way or another. We're dropping ability with a lot of passives but some actives that actually change the gameplay. So in the future for Battle for Azeroth, I'm hoping we get a lot more passives but a lot more active abilities as well to kind of almost make up for what we're losing with artifact weapons, because I would rather have us progress forward than progress backwards on how many abilities and passives and abilities that change how we play are available. So thank you all guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I just kind of want to bring this up to the topic. I really want the game to advance forward instead of taking away abilities that change the way we play. Instead of taking away active abilities to maintain and some of the interesting passives that change how we play, I'd rather for us to evolve, add more abilities, add new ways to play. Stuff like Symbiosis from back in Pandaria was so interesting to play with. Whether it was bad, whether it was good, it was still a very interesting concept to try. And the more abilities we have, the better we'll be able to tune how our characters play, and the more we can bring the player skill into the game rather than, oh, you're doing this well because you're playing a certain class. I would rather have people doing well because of a certain amount of skill rather than because they're playing a certain class in the game. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like. If you simply just want to watch my channel grow even bigger than it needs to be, which I thought we would stop growing at 200 subscribers, honestly, so to have 50k subs is humbling. Giving the videos likes allows them to reach a wider audience, so if you guys want to help me over there, more than welcome to. If you guys enjoy the content and like the constant updates and the 5.5.1 duels, be sure to hit subscribe down below and hit the notification bell next to subscribe in order to catch every single video that I make, which is 2 a day, and the live streams that are regular except for Thursday, so no live stream today. Hopefully you guys enjoy yourselves. Hopefully everybody's having a great holiday season. Thank you for watching, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.